This episode is brought to you by Geno's East of Chicago in Los Angeles. Founded in Chicago in 1966, now over 5 years in Los Angeles, in Sherman Oaks, they use the same recipes and ingredients they do in Chicago. It's like taking a trip to the Windy City without the cold weather. Get the authentic Chicago deep dish and thin crust tavern style pizza, or the great Italian beef and Italian beef Italian sausage combo sandwiches. Plus, there's 12 screens showing Chicago and LA sports. Have a genuine Chicago dog with all the toppings as you watch the Cubs, Sox, Dodgers, and Angels. No ketchup. Now available year-round. Check out the menu at genoseast.com. Lunch specials Monday through Friday until 2 p.m. Happy hour features selected wines and beers for $5 and $6 for food. Monday through Thursday, 3 to 6 p.m. Geno's East. Great food, great atmosphere, and great people. Sit back and relax. It's time for peanuts, popcorn, and Cracker Jacks. Hey, how's it going? I'm your host, Jeff Santo, and I'm here with my wife, Christie.
Hello, hello.
So we're going to do something a little different today. We've been very busy with our Wild Ones production,
Yes.
indie film, and we are not going to have a special guest today. We're going to talk about a show on TV that is about baseball, and we're going to dive into it.
Mm-hmm. So if you haven't seen it yet, you should see it. It's called The Clubhouse, A Year with the Red Sox. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, and it follows the Red Sox through the 2024 season, and they go inside the clubhouse, follow a team on the road. It's an intimate look that has never been, pursued before.
So let's talk about the positives.
Yeah. So go ahead, start.
Okay. Well, I think it's an it's an inside look at the emotional mindset of today's player and, or at least the ones who are willing to be so vulnerable. And that is intriguing to me.
Very much so. I was captivated by it. And to see what today's player is like emotionally and psychologically and what they have to deal with was very powerful to witness. And
very insightful as well, because, it's, where we're getting to be of a certain age, right?
Yeah.
And we're from a different time and place.
Yes.
And today's young man is very different from my generation, your generation, and et cetera. And so not only having that kind of inside look at what they're dealing with, but an additional component to that is them being a professional athlete on a stage in front of a lot of people. It's a lot to juggle.
yeah, and I even go back to my dad's era, and I couldn't stop thinking about the players then, growing up in the clubhouse and going, what I found so different is that today's player, the ones that they followed, not everyone's like this, but I think a majority of them are. Mm-hmm. You had a pitcher, you had a center fielder, you had a first baseman, a lot similar to how they handle failure on the field versus how I think my dad's era and even guys after that handled it. They really speak about it a lot. Mm-hmm. They didn't speak about it then. They might hold it in. They might
react. Your dad, I could see your dad wearing it on his sleeve, and others take it inside. But it was a different era, but now they talk about it more.
They talk about it at the moment, and so I feel like one of the things in my dad's era, they would sit around the clubhouse after, have a beer before they leave, and they let it go. They're part of society. My dad's era, right? So, they were part of the middle class. People got to know them in their individual cities. Chicago got to know the whole team.
Okay, let's say this. So was it Jaron Duran?
Yes.
Okay, so Jaron Duran, he kind of reminded me of your father in as far as his interaction with the fans. He would stick around after the game and he would talk to the fans that would wait outside, but then that would change once he got into his car and he left, or or was he the one that walked home? No.
No. Yeah. He was fixing his car.
Yeah.
His own car.
No, but he said that he's there every day with the fans. He knew them by name.
Yep.
And so like that to me reminded me of you telling me about the stories about your dad leaving the ballpark and then stopping on the way home and the fans that would wait outside in the streets and all that. Now, your dad knew he's not like one of the, I mean, he knows where the difference is. I mean, they're waiting for him. He's not waiting for them.
Right.
Right. So, your dad was part of society, but not really part of society. He knows he's on the stage.
He does, but I'm talking about you're open more, like you're in society more. These guys are protected and they're on their own.
But I don't think that they are protected, and that's part of the mental struggle. I mean, they're way more out there vulnerably in front of everybody, especially with social media.
That's why.
And they're constantly seeing these comments, and these comments are not in real person. They're angry keyboard typists or whatever the word is, and so they're getting really harsh things. You should kill yourself. All these horrible things.
Right.
And they're sitting alone if they're not married, they don't have a family, they don't have a girlfriend. They're sitting alone reading all this shit.
True.
And that's horrible.
But when I say alone, I feel like they're alone because they're looking at a phone and they're taking in all this negative stuff coming their way alone. Okay.
Yeah.
So my dad's era, a fan could scream in, say, Santa, you suck, whatever. That's everyone witnesses that. So they rally around someone when that happens.
Yeah.
Okay. So when these guys go home, and a lot of these guys are single, which blew me away. Mm-hmm. Like going to their own apartments alone. The first baseman, Jaron, the center fielder, they're alone and they don't have a significant other. And that's kind of baffling to me in a way that the culture is so much different. Mm-hmm. These guys at age 8, 9, I got to say, they're funneled into these leagues.
Yeah.
So their whole world, their whole culture is baseball. Where my dad's era, and even after, it wasn't. They played different sports. They hung out in their societies. You know what I mean? They got to witness like, okay, I'm a regular guy. These guys are put into a baseball farm system before they even get to the major leagues. That's what it feels like. So their whole world is baseball. They can't separate when the game's over to now I'm just a guy and going about my business. I think their whole deal is if they don't have a good game, I mean, until they have a good game, they don't break out of their funk. And how about that pitcher that would go into the dugout underneath and then just scream and bash stuff? I wouldn't, they had guys that would bash bats, but that's after a bat and they let it go and they move on. I just found it very debilitating on how they have to do this. And I felt for them. Mm-hmm. And I felt for the stress because it is a different stress. When you look at your phone and you see all these negative, comments about you, I mean, that's awful. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like I think baseball should do more of this, not less of it.
Well, let's talk about this. Okay, so, obviously it wasn't renewed.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about why and where it could be more successful. Why wasn't it successful? Because if you compare it to their other series, you've got Full Swing, which is the golf, and then you have the other one that's just tennis. We have Breaking Point, which we haven't seen yet. Okay, and where those do better is that it's individual players.
Exactly.
Right? So you can watch, if you haven't watched golf in years and you watch Full Swing, you're up to date in a general idea about what is going on in the golf climate before you watch the next Masters or majors or different things like that. You're kind of up to speed.
Right.
This does not apply. You can't watch the Clubhouse and be up to date on what's going on in the baseball climate for the next following year.
Right. And I think that's where they fail on it. So you'd almost have to time it where you can be ready to put these things out as you're going through the season. because the season's over with.
Even if you do, and you're doing one specific team, right? Now it's the same Hard Knocks problem. You're having only the serious fanatics and the people who are fans of that team. And now, if you don't put it out, like you said, in real time, you are having, it's so behind. I mean, because now it's like, pretty much everyone stayed on the Red Sox except for Tyler O'Neill, who went to the Orioles.
Right.
Okay. So if you're a Red Sox fan, you're like, okay, I'm getting to know some of my players. But, it's not for everybody because everybody's like, oh, it's the Red Sox or the manager. They don't want to follow that manager. I don't want to watch it because that guy's dead.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I got a couple things on what you just said. That's okay. That's okay if you can't keep, where they are in the standings. Are you up to date with baseball? As long as the stories are riveting, the character-driven stories that I was into, that didn't bother me. Like, I'm like, I want to get deeper into the psychology of these players, okay? Where they came from, how they're doing, what's their history with their family. All that stuff grabbed me. So I don't think you need that. If you can focus that down to these stories, these individual stories that we're following, because what I took out of that, I'm like, wow, the baseball could really jump on this, and each team can jump on this. What I mean, because a lot of the teams today have their own production company, Marquee, film the Cubs.
Absolutely, you've got the social media crew and yes, exactly.
Okay.
The media team. They could definitely do this. Individual teams can definitely do this, and they should do this. And every team should highlight players so that we feel more of the, like I said, gladiatorness.
Yes.
When they come out, and perform. So we're like with that, and you're going to get less of those criticisms, less of the angry keyboardist or whatever.
You are,
because people are going to be more invested in the emotional mindset of the players. And
fans are going to stick up for the players if other fans get on them.
Totally.
And that happened with Jaron at, I think, an Orioles game where they took the fan out of the stadium who was getting on him because of his story in Clubhouse. We're not going to give that away.
Right.
But I feel like today's players, because it's so... Back when my dad played, and like I said, even after that, the 84 Cubs, you got to know these guys through the city, through a good season, and all that. And you still kind of do, but there's so much money, that they're making today. My dad's era, they were famous, but they weren't rich, okay? Mm-hmm. So they had to have a blue collar. They went out the same places. These guys, unless you're young, they are segregated from society. Let's just say that. So society's not really getting a taste of them the way they need to today, meaning they're going to judge them. Oh, that guy's got way too much money. He's getting paid too much, blah, blah, blah. Okay? And so they look at someone different. Oh, you're in the big league, so what are you crying about? You got a good life. They don't know how hard it is to get there. Okay? So that's where it's coming from. What this does today, I think you have to do it. You have to bring the fan inside the world of these players and baseball so that they can get to know them and understand them and root for them and stick up for them in times that they need it.
Okay, so let me ask you something. Okay, did you think that it was essential to highlight the team, these individuals, and then collectively analyze them as a team? Or do you think that they can do these individual players team specific, like their own teams handle it? I'm talking about like going forward, if they were to continue something like this, do you need the team element, or can you just focus on individual players so you can say, hey, we got somebody from the Red Sox we're following, we got somebody from the Cubs we're following, we got somebody from the Dodgers that we're following. Maybe it's all, free agents or something like that.
I think you need a team, because then you're singling out guys. Guys are going to be like pissed. I'm not part of this, so why do I care? You have to bring the teams all involved this.
Well, they didn't, there was wasn't every single person on
a lot of them though. They knew it was there. They knew it was there. I didn't feel like anyone was against it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't know if they signed on because they figured, our manager is coming off of bad publicity with the, Well,
let's get into that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now.
Because why would they sign on to this?
Well, because
you are an entertainer now.
No, I agree.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But they're so afraid for the negative criticism and the negative publicity that and you can feel that not everybody was for this.
Okay, but I felt a majority was, and I felt enough of it was because the manager was, right? Now let's get to Cora, Alex Cora. Now, obviously involved in the 2017 Houston Astros scandal of cheating. Mm-hmm. And he talked about it briefly, but talked about it. And I really was taken aback because, first of all, you get to know Cora in this series, and you like him. He's a good guy. He knows how to handle his players.
No, he's a likable guy.
I
wouldn't call him a good guy.
Okay,
right?
All right.
You have to judge him on his actions.
Yeah.
However, he is a charismatic guy.
Yep.
And you can see that he brings a lot of fun to the clubhouse.
Yeah, that's a good guy.
Okay.
When
I hear good guy, I think a morally upstanding guy, and I wouldn't call him a morally upstanding.
Well, because
guy.
of what he did.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's one thing, and he got caught up in all that, but it was wrong. Okay, so it was. First of all, it's so wrong.
I can't even believe he still has a job.
I know that, but what I'm trying to say is that the way he talked about it, and his dad played pro ball, so he knew better. Like that kind of cheating that they did wasn't, I got the signals because he's given a tell. It was purposeful. It was set up a camera. It was everything that whoever was the orchestrator of that should be gone. If you're gonna throw Pete Rose.
It sounded like he was very much.
He did. He said a line in there that kind of blew me away. Like, I was just so into it. He talked about that. Into cheating at a level that, if you got caught, that's a firestorm, and they got caught. We still don't know the extent of that, right? The way that they let it go away in MLB, part of the push away, because that puts a stain on baseball itself. Okay. But there should be a documentary on that one day, like literally a full-on documentary. Now you got A.J. Hinch, who is with the Detroit Tigers now. He came back. Now, I had an argument with someone saying, well, maybe Hinch didn't know that Alex Cora was doing this. I'm like, how does the manager's right-hand man not know this is going on? I just do not believe that. I know that everyone knew what was going on, and they did it. Okay? And to me, it's just like betting on baseball with Shoeless Joe Jackson and Pete Rose, and you're cheating in baseball in a way that's so diabolical that I'm sorry, man, Corey, you seem like a cool guy, but you did it. And I feel like watching that series, I'm like, boy, he got lucky. And he's in a life right now that's a beautiful life, and he's doing a great job at it. But boy, I question whether there's other guys that should have had an opportunity to do that, what he's doing now. You know what I mean?
Well, I probably think that they packaged it around the idea of like, hey, this is good for everybody because we have to kind of, let the public in, and that he is a good guy and let's forgive him and all that kind of stuff. Because I just don't see other teams signing up to do this. Otherwise, why wouldn't they do it themselves?
Well, I think MLB has to be the one that says, hey, let's make the game better. So we're going to be doing this every year. NFL's doing it with Hard Knocks. They do it.
And that's questionable as to whether or not it's successful or not.
It's been successful. It's been on for years.
No, the show is successful.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's been successful for the teams.
Oh, I think it's successful for anyone. If you get to know the player, I think anyone to get your story told is a success.
No, absolutely. The highlight that it gives the players, especially, Tristan Casas came off looking very interesting, like very, eclectic.
Yes, he did.
Eccentric, I would say.
Almost like an artist.
But then his injuries, and then you're going, oh gosh. But then you see how hard he's trying to work to get back, and then he stuck around for the next 20, 25, and then he had another injury. Ugh.
Yeah, but
anyways, and then Jaron Duran came across looking really great. Even Brayan Bello looked really great, minus his little under the dugout,
All right, that's you saying that, and that's great because they're likable guys. Okay,
they're likable guys.
I get it, but here's what I was thinking, and they're likable guys, and I like them too. But I feel like when you do that to yourself, when you hate on yourself that much, I mean, they were hating on themselves a lot, man.
Oh, but come on. You put a camera in front of your dad's face as he comes off.
But he doesn't talk about hating himself. Okay, so that's the only thing I had a problem with. Okay, I get it. You're pissed at yourself. You got a right to be. You know, every at bat you could be pissed at yourself. I played a game. I know you're like, oh my God, what am I swinging at that junk for, right? But to come back and go, God, they don't like themselves. How can you do that? And if you do that enough times, it's kind of up there. Like, it doesn't go away.
Well, okay, that's the problem with, here's an interesting thing about social media that we have not we have not as a society rallied together and said, how do we teach the people younger, our kids, the people who are younger than us, how to properly manage this stuff? When we have, for example, when you first start drinking, there's rules that are given to you. Don't drink and drive, like all this stuff, how do you deal with a hangover? Like all that stuff is kind of like socially, you're educated socially about that. Nobody is educating you about how to handle social media. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you are like,
Not nobody. There's people out there. Well,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, go. But as a whole, you're right.
As a whole,
yeah.
Right? So dealing with these people who write these angry messages, there's nobody saying there like how you should mentally persevere, how you should change your mindset, how that's not a way to think, how to distance yourself from those way of thinking, those people that think that way and say those things that way. And the mental aspect of the game really needs to come down to how to deal with this social media backlash.
Yeah, they got to figure that out. And getting back to the players, though, I feel like if they can let go and move on, like not be so hateful to themselves because they're that good and they're that trained and they're that programmed. Because, again, I go back to my dad and them. When you talk about it that much, the guys just didn't talk about it that much. They're not going to sit there and throw their feet.
But they didn't get I know your dad got death threats, right?
Yeah.
But it's a little bit different than the amount of the way that people are talking. And especially even it happens in high school.
Right.
Oh, you're fucking nothing. You're a loser. Kill yourself.
Yeah, right.
That kind of mindset that is instilled into a young person's
I agree.
That makes them think, oh, that's how I should think that way. I didn't succeed, therefore I suck.
All right, I buy that, and I think even too. I mean, there's times I think everyone's a little bit more isolated today for some reason, and I think those thoughts, like you have to be in the present tense more often today to not get caught in all this crap. Mm-hmm. Because and that's kind of like where the mental attitude needs to go. It's like, don't go back into this room and start crashing things and telling yourself you suck out loud because everyone else is hearing this. Okay, let's find a way to let it go and then kind of get in the present time. And get out of that thought process, because the only way to lose a negative thought is to get a positive one coming in your mind. Okay,
again, education.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. So I have a lot of compassion for them, and especially that Jaron, man, he's such a fighter, and he's kind of like a blue collar guy. His dad, you could tell, was kind of strong on him. His parents, you could see it, like
you see the love around him,
and you see, but you also see that they drove him. That it was like they put all their eggs in his basket and said he's going to be a pro ball player because the dad kind of had talent and didn't make it, and I felt that, and I felt the mom was very. He's my boy, but when it came to sensitive stuff, the guy was kind of on his own.
Yes, he was on his own, but I think that's probably how he preferred it. I think that there was, whether it's too much hand holding, to the point where
I don't think it was hand holding.
I'm just saying who knows how it was when he was a kid.
Well-
Obviously the father had a lot to say about how he performed, right? Like he was even talking about how he would sit behind the home plate and yell things out. And like when you have that kind of a father, that's a good thing for your athleticism, right? But it's also too much involvement. And it also lets the son know, I really want this for you, right? So kids are learning through the subtext. Right. And if the mom is aware of emotional things that he's dealing with, then the mom has a difficult way of dealing with a boy when it comes to dealing with emotional issues. So he's not going to learn how to get these emotional issues from the mom, because men and women think differently and deal with emotional.
Well, I believe in that.
mindsets.
After what they say, after 10 years old, it's the father that has to guide the young boy
Right.
to
And
manhood.
if you have a father who's very passionate about the son's performance, the son is going to be performing in a lot of ways for the father.
But there's also a way of doing it, though. Like the father, you could say, like he would yell at him and the kid would come back. Like dad would be on him and the kid would go back to his dad at the park. Like the dad knew he was going to come back. But it was almost like, boy, man, you're beating this guy. You're beating him down to prove a point. But there's got to be some kind of feeding of love in there somewhere.
Of course,
I know,
there
but I
is.
did, but the way that I saw that, I'm just saying, there's a lot of different things here. I agree. It should be like if a guy's going to mentor a kid and has talent to do it because he played the game or whatever, that mentorship has to be strong, disciplined, but also know that both parties are in it the same way. Right?
Yeah, but that's really hard to do when you have a kid, because kids are all over.
And that's why I don't have kids.
Yeah, but okay, but just imagine, you know.
Yeah, I know. The
mentoring experience is not perfect all the time, and there's it's a delicate thing, because you cannot force something. It has to be natural, and there's always going to be emotion, because these kids are growing and their hormones are changing, and you've got life stuff coming.
Well,
at
yeah,
them.
all right, I get that, but I'm getting back to
We're getting off topic.
these. Yeah, let's take a break. We'll be back and continue this.
Hans Christian Andersen said, "Where words fail, music speaks." At Joey's Song, we believe truer words were never spoken. Our mission at Joey's Song is to raise money to fund the desperately needed research to find treatments and cures for the devastating and intractable epilepsies that are robbing futures and taking lives. Between 50 and 65 million people worldwide have epilepsy, and 1/3 of those folks, approximately 20 million, cannot find relief from their seizures through any known treatments or surgery. Joey's Song is dedicated to and in the memory of Joey Gamal, who died in 2010, just shy of his 5th birthday after battling a rare form of epilepsy his entire life. Every year, Joey's Song brings together Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, Grammy and Emmy winners, and top 40 hitmakers for a series of one-of-a-kind concerts that have helped us be a part of over $1.75 million raised over the last decade. Artists from bands like Cheap Trick, The Bangles, The Go-Go's, Garbage, The Goo Goo Dolls, Toto, and countless others all help us give hope to the families fighting epilepsy today. To find out more about Joey's Song and stay up to date on our next one-of-a-kind show, visit joeysong.org and join our mailing list, or follow us on the social media channels of your choice. Thanks for your time, and thanks for supporting Joey's Song, and thanks for listening to Peanuts, Popcorn, and Cracker Jacks.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, let's talk about this. What I found from this show that's intriguing is getting to know these guys. I like that. I was brought in to wanting more. Okay, because I think baseball is missing that today. There's so much out there for people to do. It's not the same anymore. So, like, I used to know.
I agree with you 100%, because, baseball says it has an attention problem. We have a group of society of people that does not have an attention span because of all the technology that's being thrown our way. Mm-hmm. It's the older audience can sit around and watch baseball, but the younger audience, they're not caught up in the mental game of every single pitch and what is occurring and how the game is unraveling and how intense it is. It's actually a very intense game if you understand what's going on. But if you don't understand all of those little details, it's boring to you. Right? Now, if, like you say, it is entertainment, right? So add to that entertainment the psychology of each player and what is going on, and even just like with the pitcher, right? If you know this pitcher and they have this many pitches, well, let's explain what those pitches are, because a lot of those times, even though I understand the pitches, I know the names of the pitches, I don't really know what the pitches are. There's so much more about this game that I don't even know. You know,
Yeah.
what's a sinker? What's versus a curve? What's, a sinking fastball?
All right. There's a lot of pitches. I got
pitches,
it.
Right?
Yeah, but more importantly, and I get that, and that's a cool thing to throw out and figure out how to do that. You got to condense it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in my time as a kid, we had This Week in Baseball. We all watched it. Every Saturday it came on and it showed the whole league and all the highlights, and it was beautiful. And Mel Allen, it was just like we couldn't wait to watch This Week in Baseball. I knew all the stars in the American League and in the National League. Today, I hardly know a lot of different players, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because each city is focused on their own team, and then they have other things to be focused on their phones and social media and all this. So baseball needs to do, they got to have a structure to this. And so what Clubhouse showed is that there's something there. Okay?
Right, but they're not doing it right.
Right. So here's the thing. I feel like each team, like Marquee, should start doing documentaries, little condensed documentaries on every player that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like I want to know, like, this guy could have been a 41st round draft pick versus a first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
And the first round pick didn't make it, but the 46th round pick made it. How did he jump all these bonus babies? There's great stories in the people that make it.
Mm-hmm.
Some make it with the ability. Some make it because they got the will and they got the heart. And we need that. And if each team...
If you're going to a play on Broadway, right? And they have a playbill, and they tell you right before you're watching the show, you get to read a whole biography about who's in the show.
Right.
Right? And so if there's a cast change or, this actor is not going to be in here, guess what? This actor is, and they give you the bio, right? What I don't like is we're watching a baseball game and suddenly we're like, who is that? What just happened to our third baseman? Okay, he's out. Okay, please tell us, give us a playbill and tell us who he is, where did he come from, how do we get him?
Right. And I feel like, that is needed, because even these Apple Friday night games, if it's not the Cubs, I'm going to be like, who are these guys? Right? So
Let's go into that.
You got to come in. So I feel like, let me just start with this. I feel like let's start with Marquee. If Marquee did something like that, broke down PCA, all these, they've got little documentaries. Now they could first of all put it on their network after a game, which is cool, and each fan gets to see that. And then they could put highlights during a game. And when they go nationally, they can send, a 10-minute roll on PCA or whoever to the national broadcast that they could play with. Mm-hmm. Now it's going national. Mm-hmm. And that's how you start to build these guys, because I've never seen it in my time of how quick these guys could become famous today. Like back in my dad's day, it took a lot of years for you to know who Ron Santo was. I mean, because you're not getting that kind of attention outside of the city of Chicago on a national level. Mm-hmm. But look at how fast PCA just rocketed, literally.
But also he was equipped to do so. I mean, that's not for every player. They don't have the mindset.
I agree.
I mean, look at Bryant. He necessarily didn't like the limelight.
No, he did a couple of gigs in there. He did a fun thing that he did in the car of an Uber driver.
He did all that fun stuff, right? But I don't think he liked it as much.
Well, that's fine whether they like it or not. They have to like it. Okay, if this is what you're going to be, you have to accept the role. I feel if you really want to be known, and I think everyone wants to.
And I think it's the you got to author your own story. Right?
Yeah.
So if you don't want to show as much personality, well, then show performance. I mean, look at Ohtani.
Right.
Ohtani does
but he's got personality too, though. Look at his commercials. He's funny. He's engaging. Okay.
But he's not, it's not verbal, right? It's still facial expressions, which are very subtle, but it's performance.
Right. I get you.
Suzuki.
Yeah.
Seiya. He does the same thing.
Right.
I mean, look at that video he did with the samurai sword slicing. The
Yeah,
baseball.
that's fun stuff.
You know
yeah,
what I
that
mean?
grabs you. Then you're like, who is that guy?
grabs you.
Yeah,
And if they had that little bit,
it's like an action star. We're going to see him do action.
Up to the bat. I mean, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now I feel like it's almost like a comic book hero, and you're like, here he comes to bat. Let's go. Yes, right. And then you have these little chants that we do. Now, I love that. Right? That should all be part of the game. Now, let's talk about what can be done nationally so that we know about the other teams.
Right, but that's what I'm telling you, that if each team does this with their players, they can syndicate those little short documentaries to the national broadcasters, and whoever has a good game that day could flash it up. Now, I think this works more for the stars like PCA and all that. I'm not saying the other guys got to have there because they could have a great game or like, who is this guy? You know, that always happens in a World Series or a playoff anyway. It's usually the guy that people don't know about, and they're like, oh my God, look at this player. So I think each team should be responsible for that, right? And MLB has to form a structure, I believe. And I think that comes into the same thing we're talking about.
I don't know if it's MLB's responsibility.
Wait,
I'm going to say that.
They have to release it, okay? They have to be the ones that approve it, or no one does it. Okay, that's how it goes.
Hold on a second. You're saying that if the team, let's say the Cubs, want to do a little video package, that they need to get approval from MLB?
Yes, they do. If they're going to send it nationally, absolutely. MLB approves everything.
So the video of Suzuki slicing the baseballs with the samurai sword was approved by MLB?
I don't know about that. That's a local kind of gimmick thing. But if you're going to do stories on players that represent the Major League Baseball union, yes, they're going to want it. They're going to absolutely 100%. They want to know, how is that story told? It's going to have to be approved by the top. It happened in the documentary that I was in with they did on my dad. That was an MLB production through Marquee. Okay? Because they want to make sure that the ball players are represented the right way. You just don't know. You don't know if a facility doesn't do it the right way. So there's got to be quality put in that. It's like anything. They are the main studio.
So maybe it should be MLB Films and not individual teams. That
maybe, but there's enough of these homegrown stations that have the capabilities of doing it. And why wouldn't they let that happen, as long as there's maybe a mentor from MLB overseeing it? Okay, that's how you get it done quicker, and it could happen. Okay, you can focus on your ball players. The team's going to know the best of what to do with their individual ball players because they've been with them. That's just my thought process. But MLB has to be the one structuring it all. And if they want to up their game, filming wise too, that we've always talked about, then they have to work with each and every team, because those teams and the cameramen and the broadcast, they all have to, whatever style they come up with, if they ever do it that way, I think they should, to make it more appealing to watch at home, like we talked about, right? And then you could kind of, that all runs in the same kind of structure. Not only build up these storylines, because stories, everything, people get to know people by story. Story. That's how I would think about it, okay? And if you can go story, and then you go, okay, how do we film that story the best way? Because the game's part of that. If you put that into a whole structure, you're going to have a really cool product. It's going to take some financing. It's going to take a lot of restructuring.
Yeah, they sell so many more jerseys.
Oh, but you'll get to know the players. So, like when we see Jaron and he's getting heckled by some guy in Baltimore that didn't like what he said and what he went through mentally, when he actually, the guy was, the kid could not even be here today if things didn't go the right way for him. And I feel like a guy that can just yell at him, if more people knew what he was yelling, and I think a few did, because more people have seen this clubhouse than we think, that you start getting protected by the fan's going to get nervous to yell at you because there could be another fan next to him. And that always happens. Back in the day, the good ball players always had buddies in the stands anyway to take care of the guy that's going to be on the guy if he's on them all game. Okay? I just think it's going to balance out everyone. And if they want to make it their life better, where the stress isn't so amped, they have to accept letting people get to know them. And however that is, and MLB has to structure that, and that's the only way it can happen as far as I see it.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening to our show. Special thanks to our cool Cracker Jacks, Scott Nelson, Jim McCauley, Debbie Foley, Sherry Matarisi, Terry O'Brien, Gary Tallman, Anne-Marie Piscule, Jim Muleschlegel, Mac McPhillamy, and Liz Rutherford.
This show is made possible because of them and all our subscribers. If you want to support the show and be a cool Cracker Jack yourself, subscribe on our Patreon page. Click the link below this episode or go to the Patreon tab on our website, www.peanutspopcornandcrackerjacks.com.
And leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Yes, please leave a review. And don't hesitate to write, give us suggestions, or tell us how you like the show. Email
jeff.ppcpodcast@gmail.com.
For my closing quote. Nobody is perfect. I just don't believe in perfection. But I do believe in saying, this is who I am, and look at me not being perfect. I'm proud of that. Kate Winslet?
Toodaloo! At santofilms.com, we offer a diverse range of products, including indie films, movie posters, books, music, and related merchandise. Check out our new This Old Cub apparel and podcast merchandise. Or delve into the pages of Ravens in the Rain, a twisty tale about a woman with a past and a man with no future. Or immerse yourself in the soundtrack from the original motion picture Jake's Corner, featuring 5 original songs by B.J. Thomas and the film score by award-winning songwriter Steve Dorff. Enjoy free shipping on all orders of $40 or more. Use the code PODCAST at checkout. Support small business. Visit www.santofilms.com. And while you're there, click the link for the Ron Santo official website. We've got a retro-inspired Ron Santo fan club shirt, Ron Santo Pizzeria shirts, and signature apparel. Go to www.santofilms.com.